Why more people are turning toward meditation, awareness, and spiritual consciousness. The nature of unconscious living, resistance, and human restlessness. Good day, friends. Let us begin with a simple observation. Humanity today has reached extraordinary heights. We can travel across continents in hours, communicate instantly across the world, access vast knowledge within seconds, treat complex diseases, and build powerful technologies. Yet despite all this progress, something fundamental remains unresolved. The human mind is restless. There is anxiety, stress, conflict, comparison, uncertainty, and a constant sense that something is missing. We have learned how to improve the outer world, but we have not fully understood the inner world. And without understanding the inner world, outer progress alone cannot bring peace. Today, more and more people, doctors, scientists, intellectuals, leaders, professionals, students, and individuals from all walks of life are turning toward meditation, awareness, and spiritual understanding. Not because it is fashionable, not because it is religious, not because it is an escape, but because they are beginning to discover something profound. The quality of life depends not only on circumstances, but on the state of the mind. Two people may live in the same world, yet one is restless and the other peaceful. So the question arises, what makes the difference? Is peace dependent on external conditions or on inner awareness? Is stress caused only by the world or by resistance within the mind? Is it possible to live in the middle of the modern world, yet remain inwardly calm, clear, and stable? These questions are no longer philosophical. They are becoming scientific, psychological, and deeply practical. Because we are beginning to understand that unconscious living creates resistance. Resistance creates tension. Tension creates restlessness. And restlessness influences our thoughts, our health, our relationships, and society itself. So today, we are not discussing belief. We are exploring something very direct. What happens when we live unconsciously? What happens when awareness begins? And why more people are naturally moving toward meditation and consciousness? Let us explore this together, slowly, carefully, and directly. Part 1. The modern human condition. Humanity today has made extraordinary progress. We have more technology, more convenience, more comfort, more connectivity, more information. Yet internally, there is more anxiety, more restlessness, more dissatisfaction, more mental noise, more psychological fatigue. The outer world is advancing, but the inner world remains unsettled. So naturally, a question arises. What is missing? And that question begins the inward movement. Part 2. The overloaded mind. The modern human mind is rarely quiet. From morning to night, notifications, messages, news, social media, comparisons, ambitions, uncertainty. Even when the body is resting, the mind continues. Thinking, planning, remembering, imagining, worrying. This continuous mental activity creates fatigue, tension, emotional instability, inner pressure. People begin to sense, I need silence, I need peace, I need space. And meditation appears, not as spirituality, but as relief. But when people begin meditation, something deeper is discovered. Meditation is not merely relaxation. It is understanding the mind. Part 3. Why intellectuals, doctors, and scientists are turning inward. This shift is not limited to spiritual seekers. Doctors are becoming interested because they see stress affecting blood pressure, diabetes, sleep, immunity, inflammation, heart health. They realize the mind influences the body profoundly. When the mind is restless, the body suffers. When awareness increases, the nervous system relaxes. So meditation becomes clinically relevant. Scientists are studying attention, self-identity, default mode network, ego, processing, consciousness itself. Intellectuals also reach a point where knowledge increases, but clarity does not. They realize thinking cannot resolve the thinker. So they begin observing the mind, not as belief, but as inquiry. Part 4. The rat race and the search for peace. Modern life has become a kind of psychological race. People are constantly competing, achieving, comparing, becoming, improving. There is always something next. Even success does not end this movement, because the mind continues. What next? What more? What else? This creates continuous psychological motion. And eventually, some individuals begin to notice something. Even while the world is rushing, there is a possibility of stillness. Even in the middle of chaos, there can be peace. This is why even highly intellectual individuals, doctors, politicians, professionals, begin to sit quietly and observe. They discover something surprising. Peace does not come from stopping the world, but from observing the mind. Part 5. Why many people still live unconsciously. Despite this shift, many people do not know such awareness exists. Why? Because unconscious living is the default condition. From childhood, we are trained to think, to compare, to compete, to achieve, to become, but not to observe. We are taught what to think, not how thinking operates. So people assume, I am my thoughts, I am my emotions, I am my reactions. This identification creates unconscious living, and because everyone lives this way, it seems normal. Part 6. What is unconscious living? Unconscious living means living mechanically. Thought arises, reaction follows, emotion arises, behavior follows. No observation in between. Someone criticizes, anger arises, reaction happens. Later there may be regret, but during the moment, there was no awareness. This creates conflict, stress, restlessness, misunderstanding. Unconscious living includes constant thinking, emotional reactivity, psychological resistance, comparison, fear of uncertainty, inner tension. This becomes the normal human state. Part 7. Understanding resistance. Resistance is central to human restlessness. Resistance means not accepting what is. The mind constantly says, "This should not be happening. I don't like this. This must change. This is wrong." This creates inner friction. Resistance is mental conflict with reality. Examples: resisting noise, resisting discomfort, resisting uncertainty, resisting thoughts, resisting emotions, resisting situations. The mind is constantly pushing against experience. This creates tension. Part 8. Resistance creates restlessness. When the mind resists, it cannot relax. It becomes tight, alert, defensive, agitated. Even when nothing is wrong externally, resistance creates inner disturbance. So restlessness is not caused by life. It is caused by resistance to life. Part 9. Why unconscious living cannot resolve resistance. The unconscious mind tries to solve problems by thinking, but thinking itself often creates resistance. For example, you feel anxious. Then thought says, "I must not be anxious." Now there are two movements, anxiety and resistance to anxiety. Conflict increases. This is unconscious living. Part 10. Awareness dissolves resistance. When awareness is present, anxiety appears, but no resistance. Just observation. Without resistance, anxiety weakens naturally. Awareness dissolves conflict. Unconsciousness strengthens conflict. Part 11. Effects of continuous resistance. Resistance has psychological consequences: restlessness, irritability, fear, overthinking, frustration, dissatisfaction. The mind never rests. Emotional consequences: anger, jealousy, insecurity, comparison, sadness. Behavioral consequences: impulsive reactions, relationship conflict, poor decisions, miscommunication. Physical consequences: chronic stress activates fight or flight. This leads to high cortisol, poor sleep, fatigue, inflammation, blood pressure changes, metabolic disturbance. Part 12. What is spiritual awareness? Spiritual awareness is simply living consciously, observing thoughts, emotions, reactions, sensations without resistance. Part 13. Advantages of spiritual awareness. When awareness increases, thoughts slow naturally. Mental noise reduces. Clarity increases. Emotions arise, but do not dominate. Resistance decreases. Inner stability develops. Health improves. Relationships improve. Peace emerges. Part 14. Are there disadvantages? Some transitions occur. Identity may feel lighter. Psychological drama reduces. Old beliefs may be questioned. These are adjustments. Part 15. Awareness of life's impermanence. Physical life is not designed to last forever. One day, the body ends. Yet most of us live as if life is permanent. So we accumulate power, wealth, control, dominance. This creates conflict. When we become conscious of impermanence, the ego softens. Greed reduces. Compassion increases. Awareness of mortality brings humility. Humility brings peace. Part 16. Chronic disease and resistance. Many chronic diseases are linked to stress, resistance, emotional conflict. Continuous resistance keeps the body in alert mode. This affects hormones, sleep, immunity, inflammation. Over time, imbalance develops. Awareness reduces resistance. When resistance reduces, the nervous system relaxes. Spiritual awareness supports health indirectly. Part 17. Children and the future. Children today face pressure, comparison, uncertainty, stress. Parents are also stressed. Children absorb emotional atmosphere. If parents are peaceful, children learn calmness. If parents are anxious, children learn anxiety. So awareness in parents becomes essential. Spiritual awareness becomes generational. Part 18. Spiritual Awareness Beyond Belief. Whether one believes in God or not, awareness matters. Spiritual awareness simply means living consciously. This applies to everyone. Scientific backing behind this information. 1. Stress and chronic disease. Research shows chronic stress activates the sympathetic nervous system and increases cortisol. Long-term elevation is associated with hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, immune dysfunction, inflammation. This supports the idea that mental resistance affects physical health. 2. Meditation and brain changes. Brain imaging studies show meditation reduces amygdala activity, fear center, strengthens prefrontal cortex, regulation, reduces default mode network overactivity, self-referential thinking. This supports less reactivity, less mental noise, more awareness. 3. Mind-body connection. Psychoneuroimmunology research demonstrates thoughts influence immune function. Stress affects inflammation. Emotional regulation affects healing. This supports awareness, reduced resistance, improved physiology. 4. Childhood stress and development. Studies show children exposed to chronic stress develop anxiety, emotional instability, cognitive difficulty, altered stress response. Calm parenting improves emotional regulation, learning ability, resilience. This supports parental awareness influences children. 5. Acceptance versus resistance research. Psychological studies show acceptance-based approaches reduce anxiety, reduce rumination, improve emotional stability. This aligns with awareness dissolving resistance. Let us end with a simple reflection. Life is moving constantly. The world may remain busy. Competition may continue. Uncertainty may remain. Change will always occur. And one more truth is undeniable. Physical life is temporary. One day, each of us will leave this world. When this is deeply understood, something shifts. Comparison loses importance. Conflict loses meaning. Aggression weakens. Compassion naturally grows. We begin to see that we are all temporary travelers, sharing a brief moment of existence. So what truly matters? Not how much we accumulate, but how consciously we live. Not how much we compete, but how peacefully we exist. Not how much we control, but how clearly we understand. Unconscious living creates resistance. Resistance creates restlessness. Restlessness affects health, relationships, families, and society. But awareness changes everything. When awareness begins, resistance softens, the mind quiets, clarity emerges, and peace becomes natural. This peace is not withdrawal from life. It is intelligence within life. It allows us to work with clarity, act without aggression, care without fear, and live without inner conflict. And perhaps most importantly, when parents become aware, children grow in calmness. When individuals become aware, society becomes less violent. When humanity becomes aware, the world becomes more compassionate. Spiritual awareness does not depend on belief. It is not limited to religion. It is simply conscious living. And conscious living is available to everyone. Doctors, scientists, leaders, parents, students, people from all walks of life. So perhaps the invitation is simple. Observe the mind. Notice resistance. Allow awareness. And discover for yourself that peace is not something to achieve, but something that appears when resistance ends. Thank you. Founder, Holistic Wellness Foundation. Impal, Healing Beyond Boundaries.